was just in Wyoming 2 weeks ago, and Bill Gates, who I don't like on a variety of things, he just unveiled the first next-gen nuclear project, like the first nuclear plant that's not the old traditional reactor.
Wait, Bill Gates did this?
He's put in billions of dollars.
Pull that up. Bill Gates nuclear plant?
Yeah. So I was at this event. Basically, 5 miles from that is a coal plant that's closing in 2028. The town was about to go bankrupt because the town was completely reliant on this coal plant. And Bill said, this town is where we want to build the nuclear power plant.
You got Bill Gates building nukes?
Right.
2 years ago, this would have been like
taboo.
Oh my God.
Well, and he's been working on this for a while, but it was so taboo that even like his own side wasn't gonna even give him the credit or talk about it because he was kind of doing it on his own island. And now everyone's like, oh, actually, he was.
Which island?
The nuclear island.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
You got to be careful around him.
Yeah,
There's
islands.
A few types of islands.
Yeah. We're on. Yeah. I was just in Wyoming 2 weeks ago, and Bill Gates, who I don't like on a variety of things, but he just unveiled the first next-gen nuclear project. It's basically like the first nuclear plant that's not the old traditional reactor.
Wait, Bill Gates did this?
He's put in billions of dollars.
Pull that up. Bill Gates nuclear plant?
Yeah.
That was in Wisconsin?
It's called TerraPower. No, Wyoming.
Wyoming.
The other W state that's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they're all flyovers to me.
Not to me.
I've never, but honestly though, I say that because until 3 weeks ago, I had never been west of Pennsylvania.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's such
You've
a
missed
beautiful
the best part of the country.
So that's what I'm saying. When I was quite literally flying over those states, I didn't know what states they were, but it was a clear day and we were, 35,000 feet up. I was just looking out the window. I had the window seat and it was so beautiful everywhere I went. And I'm like, damn, it all looks like it in a weird way. It's, you run into some mountains, you run into some valleys and shit like that, but it looks like it's all a part of the same environment and it's in the same country I'm in.
It's crazy. I think the Midwest and the West are the most beautiful parts of this country.
It's pretty
So
amazing.
I was at this event that the picture is on the screen below. Oh, actually So Bill Gates is in the middle there. Basically, so that's in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. 5 miles from that is a coal plant that's closing in 2028. The town was about to go bankrupt because the town was completely reliant on this coal plant.
Billy built him some nukes.
And Bill said, this town is where we want to build the nuclear power plant.
How about that?
And so all these people can go work at this nuclear power plant. Now, it's not the exact same process as a coal power plant, but it has very similar processes. People don't have to dramatically change their lives to understand how to work on it. And it basically revived the town. And the people who work at these plants, make well over 6 figures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, this is cool.
Very cool.
For a litany of reasons, because you also introduced something that was going to be another question I'm sure was going to come up at some point with the nuclear, because we saw that, you had Chernobyl, you had, what was the one in
3 Mile Island?
3 Mile Island, right?
That was Pennsylvania.
Yes, right. So that was here. Chernobyl was over there. And we had this huge attitude form around the world, even before climate change was a real focus, to be like, oh, we got to get away from nuclear.
Yep.
And now that, we've moved to all these sometimes over the top, trying to legislate to protect the climate ideas, we're starting to move away from fossil fuels and doing that. And people are like, yo, we can do climate-friendly things with nuclear. And for a long time, politicians around the world have been like, fuck that, nuclear is bad for the environment. But it's actually fairly good, provided you do it safely because it's nuclear. But can you explain
than any other energy source. It's the cleanest energy source. I will die on that hill.
Why is that?
So to create the material for nuclear, you just need one thing pretty much. It's uranium. And uranium gets mined from the ground. You don't need, and there are human beings for the most part that are getting the uranium. You don't need these massive mining facilities. I actually just went down 1,400 feet below ground. It was super fun for me.
Glad you had fun.
It was pitch dark. There were 12 miners down there, and they were blowing up the underground to get uranium. And that uranium is what turns into the fuel for our nuclear energy, okay? There is basically no other process but getting the uranium, processing it, and then having it fuel our nuclear facilities. There's 0 carbon emitted at all during that process. when you have solar panels, you have to mine for the materials in solar panels. It's a far more intensive mining process, and you have to use coal plants or nuclear or natural gas or nuclear to power the mining for solar. So you're already using a lot of carbon just to get the solar out of the ground in the first place. And the panels themselves are made from a lot of different fossil fuels. So
really,
overall, it's better, like in the lifespan of a solar panel, like it is still cleaner, but it's actually not like 100% clean. Nuclear is the closest thing to 100% clean. It has the lowest carbon impact out of any of the energy sources, and science proves this. It also has the least amount of deaths per kilowatt hour produced out of any energy source.
What do you mean by that?
So kilowatt hour, just
Yeah.
in simple terms, like for how much energy it produces for an hour at someone's home versus solar at someone's home versus whatever, it has the least amount of deaths. And deaths are like, you have deaths in mining, you have deaths in, all sorts of different like health issues. Each energy source has certain deaths associated with it. Like nuclear has the Chernobyl deaths, and like all these, people are dying not at large numbers, but every energy source has some sort of adverse effects.
So it's anything.
Anything.
Right, yeah.
Nuclear has the lowest number of deaths per hour produced out of any energy source. So it's not only the safest, but it's not only the cleanest, but it's also the safest. And people have completely missed the boat on nuclear. Nuclear is the answer to lowering carbon emissions right now.
This is so interesting, though, because it's like we get into these places in society where there's things you can't talk about, like, don't even mention nuclear reactors, right? And then suddenly it changes. So
it's starting to change.
2 years ago, it was, if you talked about China being a problem, I was like, no, don't do that.
That's like racist or something.
And then suddenly, like, I started to see some of this
cool thing to do.
Some of the think tanks writing about it. I was like the meme in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was like, wait a minute.
DiCaprio.
I'm like, and I called up my boy Danny Jones. I'm like, yo, this is about to change. And now it's like, yo.
Daniel Jones, the New York Giants quarterback?
No, different Danny Jones. He's the guy down in Tampa. The more important Danny Jones.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants quarterback kind of sucks.
Yeah, so. He does suck. This is an Eagles household, so,
Good. You like that. You like that.
We're making friends there. But anyway. So I called him up and I'm like, dude, this is about to change. And now you see it. Everyone talks about it. They talk about it on mainstream media, which makes me think sometimes. Right. I'm like, wait a minute. Are we taking this a little too seriously? But now it seems like you got fucking Bill Gates building nukes.
Right.
2 years ago, this would have been like,
taboo.
Oh my God.
Well, and he's been working on this for a while, but it was so taboo that even like his own side, because he's somewhat left of center, like, wasn't going to even give him the credit or talk about it because he was kind of doing it on his own island. And now everyone's like, oh, actually he was...
Which island?
The nuclear island.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
You got to be careful around him.
Yeah,
There's
islands.
A few types of islands.
Yeah. we're talking about islands a lot. New York's an island. We're talking about Bill Gates' island. But in that picture, the guy in the cowboy hat is the Republican governor, super Trumpy guy. And
next to Billy.
Yeah, so you have like a Trumpy Republican governor partnering with Bill Gates, and he worked with the Republicans and the Democrats in the state legislature to get this approved.
Good.
It's a perfect example of the power nuclear has. And like I said, it's going to replace these jobs that are being lost. So you could do that, to get back to your question. You could put natural gas plants in places like at least the processing or some part of the natural gas process.
Can you do that in the same places
as coal?
Where coal is? Does it matter where they are actually situated? Some places you can't do it?
There's most of the time you can do it wherever the coal plant is.
Interesting.
So, and especially with nuclear, you can do that there. Any like mineral processing for solar and wind, you could do in a coal facility, coal plant. I mean, you'd have to retrofit it. You have to update and upgrade the infrastructure to that specific energy source. But you already have the land. You already have a lot of the infrastructure. They have a lot of the same. They use a lot of the same machines and technology. Like it's actually, energy is energy, and a lot of it is pretty complementary across the different sectors. So coal communities don't have to die or move somewhere else to have success. And I think this plant in Wyoming is a perfect example.
Yeah, that's real. I didn't know about this. That's really, really cool. It's just interesting to see the narrative on that.
450,000 homes can be powered by this one nuclear plant that's coming online.
How big is this? Roughly,
it's smaller than the traditional nuclear plant just by a little bit. So if you think about that smokestack picture you think of or it's not a smokestack, but it looks like a smokestack of a nuclear power plant. It'll be about that size, but a little bit smaller.
Oh, bravo.
So it's really small. Like one traditional nuclear plant, you have to replace with over 3 million solar panels. That's the equivalent of power. Like if you wanted to power the same amount of homes with solar as you do nuclear, it'd be 3 million solar panels for one nuclear plant. That is a lot of space and a lot of resources.
And a lot of fossil fuels.
This plant that's coming online powers even more homes than that. So it's a remarkable kind of success story of Republicans, Democrats, fossil fuel people, clean energy people, climate people, all working together.
All right. Now, outside of the potential for like a nuclear reactor problem or something like that, what are the potential drawbacks?
It's expensive.
Using this.
So
that's a problem.
The expense comes from two things. One, our regulatory structure in the United States makes it almost impossible to build a nuclear plant. Other countries are building them very quickly and much more cheaply, but we have way more regulations and all these things called permitting processes that are actually fairly arbitrary, and even the most ardent climate person would say that we need to loosen those restrictions. Like they are really unnecessary. But the other thing is it's just a huge upfront cost. So it's more expensive upfront, but over the lifespan, it's cheaper. But it's like, that's like telling somebody, I mean, because energy is energy, like you can drive a Tesla, which is going to be $20,000 more expensive than the gas-powered car, but you're going to save on gas, and over the course of the lifespan of the Tesla, you're actually going to end up saving money compared. People are going to be like, I can't afford the extra $20,000 now.
Right.
Like, I don't care about what's happening in 10 years. That's the same thing with nuclear. It's more expensive now, less expensive in the long run, and getting people to approve like higher tax, like whatever the way that they're going to pay for it is, they're using mostly private dollars for this one, is really difficult because people don't want to pay that money now.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.